everybody. Welcome to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. I really appreciate it. I want to thank all my Patreon members for the continued support. It really means the world to me. Just means so much to have all of the supporters, and it really helps to get the word out there. Keep sharing the stories. If you're not subscribed, tell your friends about it. Let's get the word out there and get new laws passed or get these places shut down. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still suffering with addiction or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead. It's my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went. What years.
Hi, I'm Julia. I went to Clearview Horizon in Heron, Montana from October 2022 to August 2012 to 2014.
Okay, and can you walk us through what was happening before you got sent there? Like, did you know you were going to get sent there? Walk us through like what was happening before you got sent there.
So I actually had no idea that I was going. I was one of those people who was woken up in the middle of the night by people. Oh, I'm so sorry, my dog. Who was woken up in the middle of the night by transports who I had never met before. So I had no idea that I was going. I was sneaking out a lot. I was doing, drugs, hanging out with older people, and just not in the right crowd at all. So my parents kind of made the decision without my consent to hire someone to wake me up in the middle of the night and take me away.
Okay. And did you have any conversations with your parents before you got sent away? Like, did they say they were going to send you away, or was there any warning signs?
No, I did not think that my parents could keep secrets that well. Honestly, I had plans the next day. I had work scheduled. I was going to go to school. I had no idea at all. So when I was first woken up, I started screaming for my parents because I thought that someone was going to kidnap me. And then my dad came in and was kind of like, "No, Julia, we can't handle you anymore. You have to go to people who can keep you safe." So.
Okay. And did you get transported? Oh yeah, you kind of went over that. Did they handcuff you? Did they say we're going to do this the easy way or the hard way?
So they did say that we were either going to do this the easy way or the hard way, and I was so scared. I picked the easy way. You want to be the type of person that would fight back in that kind of situation.
Hey,
No problem.
I'm sorry, you guys.
It's fine. Hey, they gotta say hi. They gotta say hi. I'm gonna be editing all of that out. Don't worry.
No problem at all. So you'd like to tell yourself you'd be the type of person that would fight back and do things the hard way, but in that moment I was just so terrified that I was like, I'll do it the easy way. They kind of bribed me. They just kept giving me cigarettes as we were going because I was smoking at the time. It was a husband and a wife who just kind of go around the country taking kids in the middle of the night and bringing them to where they're supposed to go.
Okay. Were they it sounds like they weren't super cruel. Were they cruel towards you, or were they it sounds like they were giving you cigarettes and sort of kind a little bit?
They were honestly the nicest part of that whole transition. It's actually kind of crazy because the night before that I got sent away to Clearview, I had purchased a burner phone at Walmart. So that morning when I woke up, I just grabbed this phone real quick and I shoved it in my bra. And so I was able to text kind of the whole way there without anybody knowing. So that kind of made it easier too. I didn't feel quite so alone. But no, they were very nice. I think they were trying to keep me happy. I was trying to find a way out, but the wife was very close to me at all times.
Okay. And did they take you on a plane, or did they drive you the whole way?
Oh, they took me on a whole bunch of different planes. I had no idea where I was going. So I live in Fargo, North Dakota, kind of the middle of nowhere. This place is in Montana, Clearview is. They took me first to Chicago, to Minneapolis, then to Chicago, then to Spokane, Washington, all on a plane. I had no idea where I was. By the time I landed, I just saw trees and mountains.
Okay. When you got there, what happened? When you landed?
So when I landed, we got into this rental car. we drove there, and they were kind of telling me that they had brought other girls to this specific facility before, and they were telling me, there are a lot worse places that you could go. And I didn't know anything about this place. I figured that there would be girls there would be guys there. I had kind of been placed in residential, like, psychiatric facilities by my parents short term prior to this. So I was just assuming I could just kind of screw around and kind of run the place. I had no idea the kind of cult that I was getting into. We drove down this mile-long driveway in the middle of nowhere. I got there. All these people were kind of there waiting for me, and they told me, all right, come inside, take off your shoes, time to strip and do a strip search.
Okay, so they brought you into like their staff central and they pretty much did the strip search. Did they give you a rule manual or anything like that? Did they tell you about the rules to the place? Did they buddy you up with anybody to kind of like shadow you and kind of teach you the rules, or were you kind of left to your own devices to kind of figure things out?
So it was a level-based system. So there was 4 levels, and the upper levels, which were levels 3 and 4, were kind of assigned to the newcomers. So they called them their big sisters. I was a little sister to my big sister, and right away I was just kind of paired up with this person, and it was on her to teach me anything. And anything that I did wrong, any punishment that I would have gotten in my first week, automatically would go to my big sister. So I was pretty much non-punishable for the first week, but I was made very clear that if I got in trouble, it would be on my big sister to do some of the physical punishment, the hills that I otherwise would have to do.
So essentially, like there was probably some animosity, maybe did you feel any sort of animosity maybe towards your big sister, like, or did you learn the rules fast enough to where she wasn't getting consequence that often?
I did learn the rules pretty fast. I felt really bad for her, but honestly, I feel like by the time you got to be upper level, you were so engrossed in the sort of cult-like behavior, that mindset, that there was no animosity towards me. They accepted the job to take me on, which wasn't the case for all big sisters or upper levels, but the girl that I was paired with specifically was very nice.
Okay. And how many people would you say on average were there when you got there, and how many people would you say on average were there when you left?
That's a good question. When I first got there, I was the 14th girl, and I was told that it was a full house. I was told that nobody else can fit. By the time I left, there was 32 people.
Interesting how they said the full house at 14, and then they more than doubled it. Okay. And was it all girls or was it co-ed?
It was all girls. All girls ranging from ages from, I think the youngest when I got there was 12 all the way up to 18.
Okay. And what about staff abuse by staff? Was there any like grooming from staff onto students? Any stuff like that that you witnessed that you want to talk about?
So for me personally, no. I do know of a few other girls who got into some inappropriate situations with some of the staff members. I don't know a whole lot of specifics on that. More so their stories to share, but I do know that it definitely did happen, just not to me personally. And it wasn't so much as physical abuse, it was just kind of the manipulation, the grooming, and by the time these girls left, there were certain expectations.
Okay. Did you ever hear or see or know of anybody, any like girls like leaving with any staff members after the program, or being like encouraged to like, because I've heard a lot of people say that have been to these kinds of programs that there's a lot of people that end up either living with some of the staff members, getting pregnant by some of the staff members, and all sorts of manner of stuff. Did you hear about any of that sort of stuff?
So, not to that extent. All of the staff members that we had were also women, except for the therapist and the teacher. Those were the 2 males, which there has been a lot of extenuating circumstances, specifically with the therapist, Mike Linderman. That was the therapist at our program, where there's a whole lot of stuff going on with him right now. Just very inappropriate conversations with girls after they've left.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was kind of curious if you'd heard about anything. Did you have any interactions with Michael Enderman when you were there?
Yeah, so when I first got there, he was my therapist. We had weekly therapy sessions. It was very interesting because I noticed right away with Mike, everybody would run up to him and want a hug, want love, want attention from him, almost as if he was like a fatherly figure, but it went a little bit past that where it was almost too flirtatious. Um, Once we started to get more girls, we had to get another therapist because there was just too many girls for just Mike to deal with. But in the times that I was doing sessions with Mike, it didn't feel very therapeutic at all because his back was always turned to you. He was always messaging people on Facebook. And I later found out he was messaging girls who had left Clearview on Facebook.
Yeah, that
Inappropriately.
sounds up the alley of the kind of things I've heard about him. But you kind of got a weird feeling about him.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting how there was only women staff members. That's one of the first times. I mean, I've heard of that before, but it's very unique. So you said there was doctors that were men?
So it was just Mike that was a man, the therapist, and then we had these teachers because a lot of the girls went to online school there, and so the only teachers that we ever had, except for one, were all males, and they didn't present as inappropriate as Mike did. I didn't get as weird of a feeling, but I still thought that it was weird to have men in general in a house full of vulnerable girls. I later found out that the house moms or the female staff were also just as, you know, inappropriate in some ways, just nothing that I personally experienced.
Okay. How long were you there?
2 years.
Okay. And was there like an upper level and a lower level? Like you said that there was like a big sister, little sister. So I'm presuming that big sister means upper level, more privileges. Maybe you said there's 4 levels, so maybe level 2 or level 3, you get on upper levels. Is that how it was?
So when you first get there, you're considered a level 2 already. So level 1 is considered resistant, level 2 is considered open. So when you get there, you're considered to already be open to the process because you haven't proved to be distrustful at all. You can get dropped levels if you do things that are incorrect, or if you get too many hills, you'll get dropped levels. Um, Hills, basically, if you do something wrong, some sort of infraction, it could be as simple as forgetting to pick up a sock and it's called a swept item, or say that you get caught in a lie, then you get a write-up. Different infractions have different levels of hills. So you'd go to the gravel pit on Saturdays and go up this massive incline of hills. And you had to do them in a certain amount of time. And with each infraction, you also got a certain amount of energy hours that would consist of re-graveling the driveway, cleaning staff cars, things like that. So that was one way that you could get dropped. Any time that you wanted to level up, you had to stand in front of all of the girls and in front of the program director and basically request to be leveled up. And that's when all the other girls get to say why they don't think you should be leveled up, why they think you don't have integrity, why you're distrustful. And then ultimately the director, Mickey Manning, gets to decide and kind of berate you on whether or not you get to be leveled up.
Okay. What level did you get to when you were there? Did you graduate?
I did graduate. My parents were not bringing me home. They were just as brainwashed as I was.
Okay. And so you graduated, you must have gotten to level 4. Did they have you do a life contract? Does that ring a bell when you went home?
So we had to do a home contract where we would basically make certain promises, certain consequences. We had to create the consequences for ourselves. And it was kind of always in the back of our mind that if we did something bad enough, there was always the possibility that we could get sent back. And I was not going to risk that. By the time that I left and graduated Clearview, I had finally gotten off all the medications that I was originally put on when I got there. I was finally clear-headed. I could kind of just look forward to my freedom, and I was not going to mess that up.
Did you follow the life contract for no?
No, not at all.
How long did it last?
I would say that it probably lasted about 6 months, which I believe is a lot longer than some other girls had it last. My parents were, I mean, they took the indoctrination to heart. They integrated some of the practices into my younger siblings. My siblings were also afraid to get sent to a program, so they were model children until the day that they turned 18. Yeah, so it didn't last very long, but 6 months. There wasn't a certain day that it just stopped. It just kind of became less and less strict, and then I turned 18, so then they couldn't do too much.
Okay. So was it that they weren't enforcing it as much after you turned 18, or was it the fact that you turned 18 and you were becoming more independent, or do you know?
So I think that by the time I turned 18, they had gotten more comfortable with me being home. They didn't rely so much on the program, and I think over time they did slowly start to realize certain ways about me that may not have been the most healthy. In fact, when I first got out of Clearview, my mom set me up with this therapist, and for the first therapy session, she sat in it with me. And this therapist looked at me and said, "I don't want to hear you talk about Clearview anymore." And I said, "What are you I was so angry at him. I was like, "What are you talking about? This is the way, the truth, and the life, right? Like this is how it's supposed to be." And he's like, "No, this is insanity. This is not healthy. These are not." Some of the things that I was saying were just so out there, like, for example, saying I had to take accountability for everything. If I got on a plane and it crashed, it's my fault. Everything bad that happened in my life is my fault, so I should just take accountability and deal with it. And he looked at me, he looked at my mom, he said, "No, we're shutting that down real quick." And I think that was kind of the first crack in the wall, in my mom's mind, that kind of made her realize she may want to start questioning certain things. My parents and I don't actually talk about Clearview. We don't talk about program. It's in my family. It's kind of, you don't talk about the hard things, especially since we stopped following Clearview's rules so much. I think that part of them feels very guilty. Part of them feels that they saved my life. Um, it's actually only in the past 6 months that I've kind of started thinking about it. I didn't even think about Clearview. I didn't talk about it. It was just part of my past that I compartmentalized. And I never wanted to make my parents feel guilt for doing something that they thought was what was best for me. I know a lot of girls are very, very upset with their parents, and rightfully so. I mean, we didn't go through the greatest things, but in my case in particular, I do think that my parents had my best interest at heart.
Okay. And you kind of already answered this. I was going to ask you if you talk to your parents. And you said you don't really talk about it. Do you think you could ever forgive your parents? I'm in a place where I've forgiven, but I'll never forget what they did to me. But I don't want to hold contempt or like hate, because
Mm-hmm.
that's only going to hurt me. So where are you with your parents? Like, do you think you ever will talk to them about it? Do you think they know how it affected you?
I don't think that they know how deeply it affected me. I don't even think I fully realized how deeply it affected me. Um, and because of that, I never was really extremely angry at them. Even when I got to Clearview, it was drilled into me that without the program, I would be dead. So I was so fully brainwashed that I did not even realize until I got out. And I talked about it in therapy sometimes. They had me do this EMDR thing. It's for PTSD, where you hold these buzzers and it's the eye movement. And I kind of quit that very quickly because I realized that while I was thinking or talking about program, my body started to react very somatically. Like even right now, I can hear that my voice is very shaky. Logically, I know what I'm saying. I can think about it, but I feel my body shaking. I feel my voice like trembling. But emotionally, it's kind of just like a wall that I haven't quite overcome yet. And until I do, I don't think I can truly talk about it with my parents, because I still just feel so much guilt.
That's completely fair. You said EMDR didn't really work for you?
So I think it worked too well to the point that my brain was like, nope, nope, we're not ready for this yet, until the past 6 months when I really started speaking with some of the other girls from Clearview. We have certain Facebook groups that we talk about. I kind of ignored that all. I kind of figured I was one of the people that actually needed it, that wasn't affected by it. And then it slowly just kind of started to creep up into my dreams and into my thoughts. And then I realized there might be more going on underneath the surface.
Well, I can guarantee there's more going on underneath the surface, especially if you're having a somatic response. But it's wise of you to want to internalize and like comprehend what's fully going on before you tackle it. Have you tried any other techniques besides EMDR that may or may not have worked, or gotten any sort of response?
Not so much. EMDR was kind of the first step that I tried to take, and I think that my body had such a strong reaction to it that it kind of deterred me from it for a while. I'm actually just now trying to find another therapist that I like. I really did like the therapist that I had when I first got out of Clearview, but he stopped practicing, and since then I've had a very hard time reaching out to find another therapist, especially when therapy was kind of used as a weapon in program. It's kind of a hurdle that I have to get over.
Okay, that's understandable. How about food? How was the food there? Did you get to work kitchen? Did you like working kitchen? For me, it was like a break from the madness.
So we did get to work kitchen. Everyone had a different kitchen like duty. Certain people would be on breakfast, lunch, dinner on certain days. We had to cook for everyone. I did like the cooking, but I didn't like, the staff were always so micromanaging. They would call you a terrible cook if something went wrong. They would say you didn't know what you were doing. And then while you were eating, whatever was served on your plate, you had to finish. Like the whole place was full of girls who were extremely unhealthy, especially myself. I think I gained like 40 pounds in program. And part of that was because when I first got there, they loaded me up with medication. So I was so looped out of my mind. A lot of it I actually don't remember. But food specifically, I remember you had to finish what you were served.
Okay. Did you dislike the food, or I'm sorry, I just always am curious about how the food was. Was it horrible? Was it average? Was it okay? Was there stuff you...
It was pretty bad when you're feeding, 30 girls and girls without experience or cooking. All that we had was chicken and potatoes, and the chicken was sand. It was just the driest, most overcooked stuff. I swore to myself I would never eat chicken again. I don't even eat meat now. No chicken, no more potatoes. I'm a potato girl. I love potatoes, but I had to take a good long break after Clearview.
That's understandable. What was the hardest part for you being there, and how did you deal with it when you were there?
I've kind of touched on it a few times, but I think being drugged up as much as I was really hard. When I first got there, within the first few weeks, they decided that I had bipolar. Since leaving Clearview, I've been diagnosed with, anxiety, depression, certain things like that, but not bipolar. And I think it's because, my moods were going up and down because of the change in what I was taking in, the change of what I was experiencing. And they gave me 900 milligrams of lithium, they gave me Lamictal, and they gave me Prozac. And it got to the point where at breakfast, I would be falling asleep. And they called them my Julia mornings. But one thing about Clearview is that if you fall asleep, when you're not supposed to sleep, you get a write-up. So then you have to do 10 hills, work for 2 hours. So I was trying my hardest to stay awake, but I was literally falling asleep in food. My parents came to visit me after about a year. I was asleep the entire time. I did not spend a single waking moment with my family. And it took about a year for them to say, "What the hell are you putting in my daughter? She's not conscious." So I think that was the hardest part, but what helped me was the other girls who kind of kicked me awake, who kind of helped me stay awake more, and just doing the best that I could with that. And also just being away from family. Once I left, I never really cared to be around my family too much because I just assumed that they would always be there. But once I left, then I really did miss them.
Okay. How about did you ever hear about any of the students? Like, was there ever any deaths at the facility that you were at, or was there ever any attempted suicides that like were really well known there, or anything like
So
that?
while I was there, there were none. I do know that in the same year, 2012, like before I got there, there was a few girls who tried to commit suicide by drinking an entire bottle of conditioner. So by the time that I got there, they locked up the conditioner. You couldn't have anything with any alcohol in it, even like Aquaphor, like that facial lotion. Just because there was alcohol on the list, you could not have that. And I know that the director of the program, Mickey Manning, she's had a few programs beforehand where kids have committed suicide. And once that happens, then she kind of jumps ship, makes a new program, someone kills himself, jumps ship, makes a new one, and it's just kind of a cycle.
Mickey Manning was at Spring Creek Lodge, and that's where I went.
Oh, is it really? Wow.
I was at Spring Creek Lodge for 22 months. I know
Wow.
Mickey Manning well. She's a character. She's a character.
That's one word.
Let's see. If you could go back in a time machine and not go through the program, would you do it, and why, knowing what you know now?
That's a tough one because going there was not my decision at all. It would involve me going back even further and changing certain things. You know, the thing that kind of started my life spiraling was kind of a traumatic event, so that would force me to go back even further than that. And honestly, I don't know, because I think that going to Clearview has made me who I am, has helped me build character. The adversity has given me strength, but I also think that it's made me a lot more passive. I think that it's made me more of a doormat and easy to fall into highly manipulatable situations. So I don't know the answer to that. I think that I would be different. I don't know if I would be better.
Okay, that's completely fair. Were there self-improvement seminars there, like discovery, focus, principles, keys, PC1, PC2, PC3? Does that ring a bell?
The PC1, PC2, PC3 does not. I do know that every Wednesday we had process, where we would have to do these different processes.
In a group,
like
like group processes?
Right, like the lifeboat or give or taker, certain things like that. And then if parents agreed, you could go to a facility and participate in certain seminars, certain activities, see your parents. But I don't remember a whole lot of details about those because I was so looped up, unfortunately. But I do remember certain processes were very intense, like the towel one where you got to beat on the floor with a towel. Girls had bloody hands, and it was madness.
So let me get this straight. Are you saying that you had these process groups, right? But then would your parents have to pay an extra amount of money to go to these seminars for you?
Yes.
Am I getting the right idea here?
Right. So they didn't have to pay for the processes that happened every Wednesday. That was kind of part of the indoctrination with those whole Synanon processes, but the actual seminars were an extra fee.
Interesting. That's the first time I've heard about them doing that. It's another way for them to make money. Man, these people are so greedy. It's crazy.
They go after a very specific population, and they know how to get to people and get to parents. I remember my mom telling me that Mickey was on the phone with her one night that I didn't come home. I had snuck out, and Mickey basically told my mom, I sent my daughter to a program. She's so much better. Your daughter's going to die if you don't do this. You shouldn't tell her. You need to just hire these transports. They'll get her here, because if you don't, she's going to die. And as a parent, you're going to hear that and be like, well, if this person can help my kid, I clearly can.
Yeah. And then you end up signing over all your rights in the process.
And it's a Christian organization, so they avoid that sort of oversight.
Okay. Now that you said Christian, what makes you say that it was a Christian program? Did they have you read Bibles? Was it just their overarching, the way they ran the program, that you saw religion in it? What
So
makes you Christianity?
They classified themselves as the Christian Therapeutic Boarding School. Every Tuesday there was Bible study. Every Sunday we had to walk to this Baptist church, sit in this church, and get yelled at for at least 2 hours by this wackadoodle man, right? I mean, I got nothing against religion. I actually grew up Jewish, which is why it was very strange that Mickey was able to talk my parents into sending me to a Christian facility. Growing up in Fargo, North Dakota, there's not a lot of Jewish people, though, so they're already kind of used to Christianity. But they were very clear in saying, we are a Christian organization. These are our morals. We celebrate Christmas. You're going to read these Bible verses. We're going to watch the Passion of the Christ. You're going to do this Bible study. It was very clearly Christian when they wanted it to be Christian, but any other time it was fully Clearview.
When it's convenient for them, it's Christian, but then when it's not convenient, of course it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So did you make an I am statement? Like, I'm an empathetic, loving, handsome, and powerful young man? Something
Yes.
like that? And did you make
Mine was I'm a worthy, brilliant, and beautiful woman of God. They had us add of God at the end.
Interesting. Did they have you make a purpose statement?
I think so, but I can't remember off the top of my head. They had us do a whole bunch of activities when we first got there. We had to make, that statement. We had to write our life story. We had to write a list of every single thing that we had ever done wrong in our lives. They had us write a sexual encounter list where we had to write every single person and every single thing we'd ever done with anybody, like every single drug we did. They had us write everything down and then send it to our parents. And, at first we weren't able to talk to our parents or communicate at all. So any way to get anything to them, we were like typing away.
Did you guys go to school at all?
So the way that it was set up was kind of strange. Most of the girls stayed in the basement and they did online school. And it actually became an issue because there was a program that they used to use that lost accreditation. So a lot of girls with diplomas did not end up getting diplomas. Certain girls like myself who were trusted were able to go to the local high school during the day. So it was only a group of 4 or 5 girls who'd get to go to the high school. And that was actually one of my favorite things about being there because they were all very, very nice to us. I could fall asleep in class if I was tired or drowsy. They were okay with that. They were very concerned about us and our well-being. But they never said anything because they just wanted to keep an eye on us, I think. But at the same time, it's a very small town, so a lot of the people also worked at Clearview. So it was a very fine line. You can't go to school and air all of Clearview's dirty laundry because by the time you're at school, if you get to go to the high school, you're so indoctrinated, you don't think anything's wrong with it. So you're not going to say anything anyways. But even if you did, people that are working at Clearview are also working at the school or parents of kids at the school, things like that.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the hardest part has been since you got out of the program? Like, what things do you struggle with the most as a result of the program?
I would say relationships, honestly, both friendship-wise, intimacy-wise, being in a relationship with a person, because it's very hard to explain certain parts of your life when it's such a strange thing to explain. My current partner actually went to a program not quite as cult-like. It was kind of state-based with the correctional system. It wasn't like jail or anything like that, but it was a similar program with the methodologies. So he understands a lot more than anybody else that I know really would. But friendships, it's really hard to connect with people because it's hard to open up.
I struggle with that too. Is it your belief that these places could or should or even could be fully regulated, or is it your belief that they should all just be shut down?
I think that at this point, they're doing more harm than good in most instances. And as a blanket statement to protect the most kids, they should probably all be shut down. If they wanted to start from scratch, that would be another thing, but I think that there needs to be an extreme overhaul of rules and regulations, specific regulatory bodies. I know that there's a group of girls that I actually went to Clearview with that are working with the state of Montana to try and shut some of these places down, help recreate and rewrite legislation, change certain laws. So they're really taking action, but I don't think that us making small changes can fix the system as a whole, because there's always going to be loopholes that these programs are going to find. So until those loopholes are shut down, I think that it'd be more helpful and more safe for kids to just stop.
Okay. And let's see. Is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or is there anything else that you would tell like a parent thinking about sending their kid to a program like this?
I think that for any parent who's thinking that their kid could possibly benefit from something like this, really do your research. Look for warning signs. Don't go to places that restrict communication, that use physical labor, that use religion as, an excuse. There's a whole list of red flags that I've seen before when it comes to programs to look at, but I don't think that programs are the answer. I think that a child might be struggling and there are other avenues to address it. I feel very bad for the people who are still in programs now while I'm getting to enjoy eating what I want, being on the medications that I do and don't want to be on. So I have a lot of empathy for the people who are in programs, who may go to programs, and I just hope that enough awareness can be spread that it reaches enough people. I know that Paris Hilton is doing a lot of work right now with getting that word out, and I think that's a really big step. But until places like this are shut down, all we can do is have empathy for the kids who are still there.
And is the program you went to, is that shut down?
No, it is not currently shut down. Mickey has left that program. She went and started a new program. Mike kind of overhauled it, but there's a whole lot of litigation with him right now as well.
Okay. And did the place that you went, did it have like an intervention or solitary confinement or a study hall?
So it wasn't like solitary confinement. If you had enough infractions, you would get put on something called Black Cloud, where you would be in a tent out front, you would get your food brought to you, you couldn't talk to anybody, nobody could talk to you, and it would go on indefinitely until somebody said you're off Black Cloud, which I think is just as isolating to have girls walk by and not be able to talk to you as anything else. I actually remember girls being on Black Cloud. I would go outside with the dog. I would talk to the dog, but I would actually be talking to the person who was on Black Cloud because I just thought it was so inhumane to have someone in a tent by themselves eating out of like dog bowls and stuff without being able to communicate. I can't imagine.
Were you ever on Black Cloud yourself?
I was not. Thank goodness. That was actually something that was only started while I was there. I think that I was on and off afraid of getting in trouble. I got in some pretty bad trouble for doing things, and I just kind of got level dropped down to level 1 multiple times, for piercing girls' ears, for looking lyrics up online, for bringing a cell phone in the first place. I got in a lot of trouble for that. People would get in trouble for the craziest things, being sick, having things happen from being sick. I had bronchitis. I coughed until I puked. They assumed that I had clearly made myself thrown up and I got in trouble. It's just the most insane things. But no, I was never on Black Cloud.
Okay, did they try and give you like a self-infliction for the throwing up or something like that?
Yep, so anytime you would do anything self-harm related, whether that was, breaking skin, whether that was making yourself puke, you weren't allowed to use the bathroom at certain times, you would get a write-up, which was basically the same as if you did anything else bad. It was just blanket, write-up, 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 write-up.
Okay. And what was the worst thing you heard about or saw there?
There was a young girl. What was that?
And also, was there anything positive? Was there anything you took positive from your experience? Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's okay. There was a young girl who was sent there who clearly had issues that weren't able to be addressed by Clearview. I don't know, more intensive help in a different medical capacity was needed, but she should not have been there. And she had hygiene buddies, and people had to watch her brush her teeth, watch her shower. The most inhumane thing that could possibly be done in the most vulnerable state. She had to be watched. I think that was probably one of the worst things that I saw there, and one of the most dehumanizing things. And the best thing that I think came out of it, I have people that I can talk about it now. And these girls, they know what I went through. We could talk every day. We could go a year without talking, and then we could start talking again. When you live with someone for that long, I don't think that there's any way for you not to bond with them in a way that you'll never bond with anyone else.
For sure. I definitely agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your
Yes.
story. I apologize for the noises. I'm going to do my best to edit those out. If it does turn out that we do need to re-record or something like that, I'll let you know, but it should be good. I should be able to just edit everything out.
Okay.
But if you do want to do a part two, just let me know, and if you want to just add to this, then we can do a part two as well. So just let me know I'm here. You know how to reach me, and thank you
Yes.
so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, no problem. You have a wonderful night. And if you watch this far in the video, please make sure you like the video, share, subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye.